Hi guys, welcome to Love and Lust Audiobooks channel, updated daily with great audiobooks. So please subscribe to me if you don't want to miss it. Well, let's go to read this book, Mia's 5 Alphas, Part 4, Chapter 31 to 40. Chapter 31, not another alpha. Kasim, don't joke. I chuckled and moved his hand away from my waist. What are you doing here? So late Kasim didn't say anything else, which left me with a good impression of him. He joked in moderation and made people feel comfortable. Looking for my necklace, I think I left it on the mountain road. I aimed the flashlight at my feet to make sure it wasn't there. It's a moon-shaped one. I don't know if you've seen it. Kasim thought for a moment, then smiled again. The shallow dimples in his cheeks made me want to poke them with my fingers. I'll join you to find it, Kasim said. Then he bent down and ran his hands over the grass, not caring that it was dirty. What about you? What are you doing in the middle of nowhere? I asked, hoping there was something I could do to help Kasim. I'm here on a treasure hunt, Kasim said. He stood up, took the flashlight from my hand, and showed me the way. There was no light just now, so I didn't see Kasim's face clearly now. With the light of the flashlight, I could see a few specks of dust on Kasim's fair-skinned cheeks, probably smeared on his face when he was looking for the necklace. The dust on his handsome face made him look funny, so I couldn't help but laugh. Mia, what are you laughing at? Kasim looked confused and innocent. I reached out and touched his face, thumbing away the dust. Why are you acting like a child? But I'm really younger than you, he said. 10 years old. What about you? Family. I was indeed older than him. What treasure are you looking for? I asked again. I don't know. I found that treasure map in a pack as the successor of the Naran pack. My father wanted me to do this alone to prove myself. Kasim bent down and continued to search the grass. But along the way, there were many vicious beasts and a group of guardians. It took me a lot of effort to escape from them. It's so lonely, looking for the treasure alone. I'm a little afraid, Mia. Kasim continued without turning around, but I heard a sense of grievance in his tone. Vicious beast guardians, wasn't this what we went through? Also, Kasim, can you show me your treasure map? I suddenly realized something. Kasim took the treasure map from the inside pocket of his suit. I unfolded the treasure map. This route was very familiar. It was exactly the same as our treasure map.
What's wrong, Maya? Kasim asked me, blinking his innocent eyes.
I finally knew what I could do to help Kasim. I said, Kasim, I'm also on a treasure hunt, and it turns out that we are looking for the same thing. I think we can go together. Really? Kasim suddenly looked back and his eyes were bright in the night. Of course. Wait, Mia. Kasim interrupted me suddenly. I think I found something. Kasim held his hand out in front of me and opened it. The moon goddess necklace lay in his palm. Birdsong filled our camp and morning dew slid down the blades of grass. Across from Kasim and me stood Karel and the others. Who is he? Karel asked me. His eyes were filled with hostility when he looked at Kasimo. Kasim, the successor of Naran Pak. Kasim took the initiative to answer. I didn't ask you. Karel's voice was cold. He turned to me. Have you been with this guy since last night? Yes, I nodded. Kasim saved me. If it wasn't for him, I would have been killed by a monster. Why didn't you ask us to join you when you were leaving the camp so late at night? Locus asked. He also looked at Kasim with displeasure. You were all asleep, I replied. Simon came over to me. He took my hand and pulled me away from Kasim. Then he put himself between Kasim and me. Mia, no matter how late it is, we are always willing to accompany you, Simon said considerately. Mia, stay away from him. We have the same goal as him, so we are in competition, Willard said bluntly. Kasim reached past Simon and tugged at my sleeve like a child who had done something wrong. Basha, none of them seemed to like me. I'd better leave, Kasim said. He turned around and was about to leave. Kasim saved me. How could Krell and the others treat him like this? I grabbed Kasim's sleeve to stop him from leaving and shielded him behind me. If it wasn't for Kasim today, I might not have been able to come back. I tried to reason with them. Isn't it right to let him come with us? He killed the beast alone and evaded the guardians by himself. He's very capable. We'll have another person to help us. What if we find the treasure? Should it belong to him or us? Krell asked. I won't snatch it from you, Kasim suddenly said. My father only wanted me to find the treasure. He didn't say that I had to bring it back. All I need is a photo or a small token to obtain my inheritance. As you all have heard, Kasim will not snatch it from us. Let me repay him for saving my life in this way, I begged Krell. He's the successor to the Neuron Pack. Do you know how capable he is? How do you know that the monster didn't attack you on his order? I thought, did Krell suspect that Kasim did it on purpose? How could he be so despicable? Even a good person had to receive such suspicion from him. How could you say that, Krell? I really misjudged you. I was extremely disappointed in Krell. Krell suddenly pulled me into his arms and lowered his head to rub his chin against my forehead. What did you say? You're arguing with me over this new acquaintance. Krell was furious. I could feel the rise and fall of his chest. Then why did you suspect Kasim for no reason? I shouted, trying to break away from him. Who knows if he did it for your... I wish I was confused. But Krell stopped talking. Have you forgotten how intimate we were the night before? You said you loved me, Krell whispered into my ear. But I'm so disappointed in you now. I spoke so loudly that almost everyone could hear me. Then I don't mind helping you remember. Krell was extremely embarrassed. I knew that I had completely angered him. He was the alpha of the strongest Arendelle pack. But I had humiliated him in front of so many people. My lips were pried open by his aggressive tongue. Krell eagerly sucked my tongue, almost making me unable to breathe. Krell, what are you doing? Locust shouted. He tried to rush forward and pull Krell away, but Krell pushed him back with magic. Krell waved his right hand and 4 barriers appeared around the two of us. This prevented anyone outside from entering. They could only bang on the barriers and shout to stop Krell. Krell deliberately pressed his tongue against my neck, making me feel itchy and have to moan from my throat. It was so loud that Kasim and the others must have heard it. Willard, use your magic. Only you can break through Krell's barrier. Locust shouted. It was as if I had seen my savior. I said inwardly, Willard, quickly use your skill and save me. This was too shameful. However, after a long time, Willard did not move. I had no choice but to save myself. I made up my mind and gritted my teeth tightly. A blood smell instantly filled the air as I bit down on Krell's tongue. But Krell still did not stop. He continued to invade my mouth. The taste of blood had already filled my entire mouth. He was like a bloodthirsty beast and seemed to want to devour me. After a long time, probably because he had heard enough of my moans, Krell let go of me. He really went too far. How could he do this to me? With a crisp slap, a palm print instantly appeared on Krell's face. Chapter 32. Ruthless Love. I rushed out of the barrier without care. It turned out that the people inside could pass through safely. Krell followed me. He grabbed my hand and was even a little fierce. Krell let me go. My wrist hurt from his grip. No, Krell grabbed me a little harder and I lost my balance. Gravity forced me to fall towards him. Just as I closed my eyes to accept Krell's help, a pair of bony hands took mine and yanked me aside. Mia, are you okay? Kasim asked, lowering his head to wipe away the blood. Krell had just left on my lip. Let go of Mia, Krell yelled at Kasim. No, if I let her go, you'll humiliate her. Again, she doesn't want to be with you, Kasim said as he took off his coat and draped it over my shoulder. I felt so warm. I just spent so much time with Karel, but he didn't even notice that I was shivering with cold. Kasim was like an angel. Suddenly I heard a horrible sound and looked back. I saw Kasim was beaten to the ground. The shirt on his arm was torn, and there was a 4-inch long wound on his arm. His skin was split open. He was bleeding. That wound was scary and formed a stark contrast to Kasim's smooth, fair skin. I stepped forward to argue with Karel, but Kasim held me back. Mia, don't blame him. It was me who insisted on grabbing you and not letting go, but... Oh, Mia, it hurts. Kasim's eyes were exceptionally bright and clear at this moment, as if they were filled with water. I looked at Kasim's wound at this moment. The wound hurt me so much, as if it were on my heart. I had to take Kasim to my tent to heal. Can you take the shirt off yourself? I asked Kasim. Kasim raised his uninjured hand and undid the buttons, one by one, and his abs and V-lines were barely visible under his open shirt. The skin under Kasim's shirt was very fair. In fact, it was a little fairer than mine. I looked at his abs and actually became distracted. Maya. It wasn't until Kasim called me that I regained my senses. Yes. What's wrong? I can't take it off, Kasim replied. He could only move one hand, and taking off his shirt was indeed a little difficult for him. Sorry, I felt sorry for my lack of concentration. I quickly took off his shirt for fear of touching his wound. I could only slow down and touch his skin several times. Kasim let out a long sigh of relief when his shirt was finally taken off. Did I hurt you by touching you? I asked. His expression of relief made me wonder if I hadn't moved gently enough. Kasim smiled. He reached out and tucked my hair behind my ear. I just feel that your fingertips are very warm, and I almost can't control myself.
Oh my, what was he talking about?
I gathered a ball of white light in my hand and caressed his wound, concentrating on healing him. Mia Kasim seemed to know that I was shy, so he didn't continue the topic. How did you and Krill meet? I did not expect him to ask this question, and I thought I could barely remember. I told Kasim all about how I knew Krill and the others. It wasn't until I finished that I realized that they had suddenly appeared in my life after my 17th birthday. Have you ever suspected their intentions? Kasim suddenly asked. I was dumbfounded for a moment. I had thought about it before, but as time passed, I got along with them like a family. They seemed to have been contributing to me and had never told me the reason. You are so beautiful, aren't you afraid that they have some ulterior motives, just like Kriel? He didn't even ask for your permission when he kissed you just now. Kasim said he actually sounded a little angry. What was Kasim implying? Were they just interested in my body? I was indeed quite lousy. Other than my body, I had nothing better than others. Mia, don't take it to heart. I'm just reminding you, after all, you're so pretty. Kasim brought his lips to my ear. He pursed my hair and it tickled. Then he gently moved and kissed the back of my neck. Damn it. Why did Mia want to keep Kasim here? Who knew what he was planning? And I had to guard the camp with him to Bino. I glanced impatiently at this recently arrived love rival. Locus, well, that's your name, right? We haven't talked much yet. Kasim took the initiative to talk to me. Thanks, I don't want to. I turned Kasim down. Have you always spoken so coldly? Kasim asked me. No wonder Mia hasn't agreed to you after so long. Shit, damn it. What was he talking about? It's none of your business what happens between Mia and me. I scolded him loudly. Then I turned around and took a sip of water, not wanting to talk to him any longer. Are you angry? Girls don't like men with bad tempers, Kasim said again. I thought, oh, he's too annoying. So many women are crazy for me. How dare a brat like him judge me like that? My upbringing told me that I should not argue with a man so much younger than me, but I still couldn't stand it because he mentioned Mia. How much better can you be? You only saved Mia once. Mia is just taking pity on you. She's such a kind girl and will even save a small animal if it is injured. He had only known Mia for a few days and would never have known Mia as well as I did. But Mia promised me that she would give herself to me. I thought, oh, what did Kasim say? Mia wanted to be with him. How arrogant. You despicable liar. You lied to Mia. How could Mia like someone like you? I contradicted. You suspect me. Kasim was a little angry. It seemed that I had successfully angered him. Yes, I suspect you, I said triumphantly. How could you subdue such a big monster when you're so skinny? That monster must be your partner. I stared at Kasim with fixed eyes and couldn't wait to see his angry expression. However, he did not show any expression. He grabbed my hand that was holding the cup and splashed the water on himself. What was he doing? Lucas, I just want to talk to you. Why are you so hostile to me? Kasim said, innocently. I didn't do it. What the hell was he doing? Lucas, I thought you were a gentleman. I didn't expect you to be so petty. I turned to look at the person who was speaking. It was Mia. She must have thought I'd splashed water on Kasim. Mia, let me explain. What's there to explain? I saw it with my own eyes. I wanted to make things clear to Mia, but she interrupted me. Kasim, let's go. Stay away from him. Maya held Kasim's hand and was about to leave. How infuriating. I looked at them holding hands and just felt furious. Mia is mine, I shouted inwardly. That was all I could think. Then I grabbed Mia's hand and separated her from Kasim. I slung Mia over my shoulder and took her to the tent. Yes, there was still an annoying guy outside. I waved my hand and a golden barrier formed outside the tent. This barrier was unique to our pack. Even Cressel could not break it. I placed Mia in the tent. Her shirt was a little messy from the struggle, and half of it had already been lifted up. Her waist was fair and slender. I really wanted to leave red marks on it, and it would definitely be very beautiful. Locust, let go of me, you despicable man. Mia shook her head and rejected me with all her might. Damn it. She could kiss Krell like that and be so gentle to Kasim, but why couldn't she be kind to me? I wanted to conquer Mia. I wanted to see her enjoying herself underneath me. I wanted to hear her beg for mercy and plead for love with me. I wanted to enter her body ruthlessly. Chapter 33. Ulterior Motive. Lucas was crazy. He just took me into the tent in front of Kasim and Kal. Lucas let go of me. I pushed Lucas's chest. His shirt was wrinkled from my push. Mia, don't even think about rejecting me. Why can you be so intimate with Kasim, but not with me? Lucas's eyes were bloodshot. His actions expressed his urgency. Lucas directly took off his wrinkled shirt. His chest pressed eagerly against mine. He rubbed against me, trying to arouse my lust. But Kasim was still out there. How could I have such thoughts? Lucas, you said you'd wait for me to make a choice. My eyes welled up with tears. Why are you going back on your word? Lucas froze. Then he unbuttoned my shirt and buried his head between my breasts. He stuck out his tongue and licked my half-exposed breast. Mia, I said I would wait for you, but I didn't think that it would be too late. Have you fallen in love with someone else? I'm afraid I can't wait for that to happen. Lucas's voice was low. He was sad and enduring. After saying that, Lucas then put his hand around my back and ran it up my waist until he reached my bra. His hand lingered there for a long time before he finally undid the clasp. Lucas gazed at my breasts, his breathing quickened, and he lowered his head to lick my breasts from all around inwards again. It was itchy and wet, and the already narrow tent was instantly filled with an erotic atmosphere. Lucas, I couldn't help but moan as Lucas took my nipple. Mia, you're mine today, Lucas said, and gently nipped my nipple with his teeth again. His hand kept groping down from my chest, over my navel, my lower abdomen, and then into my pants. Lucas, no, you really can't do this, please. It was too embarrassing to do such a thing at this time. Mia, I want to be with you. Let me have you. Okay, Lucas leaned his lips against my ear and whispered such honeyed words. However, his hand reached into my underwear. My mind went blank. No, I couldn't do this. I resisted Lucas, but my hands were bound by his magic. I could only let him leave ambiguous water, sounds, and red marks on my body. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. We're almost there. Mia says she's suddenly not feeling well. Lucas is taking care of her. It was Casima's voice, and he called for the other. Lucas, stop. Someone's coming. No, stop right now. I yelled helplessly, but Lucas pretended not to hear me. His hands were still rubbing my breasts. His tongue slid into my mouth and licked skillfully, making me moan. The sound was getting closer and closer. My heart was pounding. Every second was torture for me. But Lucas, an experienced man in love, was giving me the best experience. After a long time, Lucas let go of me. I frantically tried to find my clothes, but found us both already dressed. I put them on while I kissed you, just now. Lucas smiled slyly. If Kasim hadn't called someone else, Lucas would really have. Thinking about this and looking at Lucas' ass, I suddenly felt that I was like a toy that he could manipulate at will whenever he wanted. Anger ignited inside me. I swung my hand toward Lucas. With a slap, the barrier shattered. Mia, are you okay? Let me check you out. I unzipped the tent and saw Willard behind him were Krill and the others. Mia, I feel so sorry for you. Kasim hugged me from behind. He buried his head in my neck and breathed. This was a healing time that belonged solely to Kasim and me. We were in the tent every day as we were now. Kasim would always say something considerate to me. All my bad moods would dissipate after talking to him. How could they treat you like that? Krell humiliated you in front of everyone, and Lucas even wanted to. Kasim didn't continue. But both of us understood. You know, Maya, I wish I could hold you in my hands. You are so gentle and kind. I can't even bear to hurt you a little. Kasim said, putting his hand on my shoulder, and I faced him like this. But they really went too far. They disrespected you like that and humiliated you. I really want to take you away from here. Kasim picked me up and put me on his knee. Kasim was originally a head taller than me, but this position made me taller than him. I lowered my head and looked down at him as if I was looking at a wronged child. Kasim, they helped me before. I wanted to convince myself to believe in them. But why did they help you? They must have something else up their sleeves. They must be tired of coquettish women and want to change their style. Kasim kissed my neck. His breath fell on my neck, thin and dense like spring rain, falling on the ground. Mia, don't be with them. Come with me. I can protect you. I will give you the best life. I will make you happy, Kasim said, pulling the shirt down over my shoulders. He licked his tongue over my shoulder and swirled it around. Kasim, no, don't do this. I tried to refuse Kasim, but he wrapped his arm around my waist. His hand gently squeezed my waist, and my body went limp, unable to move, like a kitten with its neck held firmly. Mia, they only know how to bully you. Only I am sincere with you. Mia, give up on them and come with me. Kasim continued. He leaned on my shoulder and rubbed affectionately against the place that he had just licked. My heart was touched by him. Creel, Simon Lucas, and Willard all liked me, but I wondered why. Did they really like me just like they said? Because I was beautiful, because I had a gentle personality, because they helped me or I saved them? No, that was definitely not the case. They were influential. If they could like someone for just one thing, how could they take care of a pack? That would be too stupid. If they liked me for my look or personality, why would they waste time time on me since there were too many people like me. But whenever I asked why they were helping me, they would sidestep my question. Yes, they did have another purpose, one that could only be achieved by using me, since I didn't have anything outstanding that they could fight over. The only possibility was I was thoroughly shaken. I began to doubt their purpose in approaching me. I even felt that it was disgusting to be with them. They were only competing with each other, like a little child who had acquired a new toy and played happily while his companion, out of envy, also wanted to have it. The little child didn't want to let go, so they fought over it, and only the last strong could claim ownership of that toy. They enjoyed the competition, but the toy itself was nothing to them. They had treated me well, respected me, and helped me time and time again. But it was just to increase the fun of the competition. And no one would care what the toy would think. Kasim, what are you talking about? Simon leaned into the tent, grabbing Katim's collar and pulling him out. Repeat what you just said. Simon raised his fist and aimed it at Kasim. He was threatening Kasim. He looked extremely fierce, completely unlike his usual self. Am I wrong? You have an ulterior motive for approaching Mia. Kasim was not afraid. He smiled and raised his eyebrows at Simon. An ulterior motive? What was it? Kasim's eyes seemed to have a deeper meaning. Did he know what they were up to? Simon. I approached Simon. He was the gentlest of the four and the least good at lying. I wanted to ask him myself. Tell me the truth. Simon seemed to hesitate. He dropped his fist. I looked at him expectantly. However, after a while, he shook his head and said in a low voice, I'm sorry, See, he's a selfish person. He's afraid that you'll see his dirty heart that only cares about benefits. He's not worthy of you at all. Kasim continued. Then it's not your turn either. Simon roared.
Oh, why? Naran pack is the most powerful pack other than the Arendelle pack, and I am the most beloved son of Alpha and Luna.
I will be the successor of the pack. I'm not even inferior to Corel. I can give Mia a better life. Kasim said as he approached Simon. Kasim continued, moreover, I will fully respect Mia. I won't force her to do what she doesn't want. I won't be like you guys and just treat Mia like a collectible, lock her in a cabinet, and fiddle with her as I please. Simon was furious. He glared at Kasim and aimed his fist at Kasim again. You have no right to say so. Without evidence, making such random speculation about others is the behavior of a rogue. Evidence? Kasim laughed out loud. Why didn't you send your subordinates to help Mia in this treasure hunt? Why did you come in person? Are you worried? Or do you have other motives? Other motives. That word again, what is it about me that deserves their attention?
Yeah, I thought.
Simon was completely enraged by Kasim. He began to wave his fists forward. Simon, no, I yelled. It was not in line with Simon's gentlemanly style to hit someone if he could not win the argument. Chapter 34, Who is Better? Bang! It was the sound of a fist smashing into flesh. Simon finally threw his fist at Kasim, hitting Kasim's injured arm. The wound tore again. Blood seeped through Kasim's white shirt and exploded in a hideous, glaring red line. Kasim, I hurried over to check on Kasim's injuries. I pulled down his sleeve, revealing the wound on his arm. It looked like a horrible fire snake that would burn Kasim. Mia, it hurts. Kasim put his hand over mine and rubbed it restlessly, seeming to seek reassurance. Mia, don't believe him, Simon said coldly. What was wrong with Simon? Not only did he not apologize to Kasim, but he also doubted Kasim was his previous gentlemanly style fake. Enough, I interrupted Simon. All I see now is you hurting someone and not apologizing. Simon, I'm so disappointed in you. Simon reached out to grab my sleeve, but I didn't want to give him that chance. I pulled my hand back to avoid it. Simon, I don't want to see you leave. I have to heal Kasim now. I finally chased Simon away. What were they up to? Why did they let Kasim hunt alone? What if Kasim was in danger? I still want to look for Kasim, I said. I got up and was about to leave when Krell pressed my shoulder to let me sit down. Hear us out first, Krell said. Katstia can't stay here. That again, why couldn't Kasim stay? He was so gentle and considerate. I disagree. I insisted. Mia, listen to me, Simon said. His voice was quiet, as if he was still afraid I'd be angry at him for hurting Kasim. What Kasim said to you was wrong. He's trying to drive a wedge between you and us. That's right, Lopez chimed in. We were on good terms before he came, but we started to be suspicious of each other the moment he arrived. His motive is certainly not simple. I thought his motive is not simple. What about you? What is your purpose in approaching me? I was a little dismissive. I was becoming more and more suspicious of their purpose in helping me. Mia, we sincerely love you, Willard said as he approached me and held my hand. His eyes were burning and he looked like a knight protecting a princess. Then why didn't you let me keep Kasim? He never hurt me. I asked. Why didn't you answer my questions? Why did you help me over and over again? What do you want from me, my body, or something else? No one spoke. They fell into a long silence. Hypercritical. They were so hypercritical. They kept saying that they wanted to protect me, but they actually had ulterior motives. If it weren't for Kasim, would I have been deceived by them like this forever? I'm going to look for Kasim. I got up and walked forward, but someone grabbed my sleeve. Don't go, Krell begged me. I shook him off and never looked back. Me. A familiar male voice came from outside the tent. Krell was holding a bright flashlight. I could see the perfect outline of Krell's body through the fabric of the tent. He was as fascinating as ever, but it seemed that we could never get along like we used to. He was no longer the man who enchanted me. He was just a What are you doing here? I asked in a low voice. Let's talk. Krell's words were very concise. He still had the same commanding tone. I'm going to bed. I don't want to talk. I rejected him. Krell's voice was much softer. I saw through the tent that he wrapped himself in his coat, but I'm so cold. I won't leave until you let me in. I thought, oh, want to gain my sympathy. I won't fall for it, Krell, you scheming liar. Then just stand there. I'm going to sleep. With that, I lay down and deliberately adjusted my breathing to make it even so that I looked like I was asleep.
Yes.
I watched the figure outside the tent and followed every change in him, but he was like a diligent scarecrow. Other than the slight movement caused by the wind through his hair, nothing else changed. Although I said that I wanted Krell to stand out there, I was still worried that he would get sick from the cold. This area was very cold at night. Would something happen to him? Go away. Why? I screamed inwardly. But how could he hear this silent command? Every second he stayed was torture for me. I was afraid he would get sick. I was worried about his health. Krell, bad guy, is this how you punish me? I thought helplessly. It had already been 2 hours. How was Krell doing? He could no longer stand like this. But I couldn't let him in. He humiliated me and hurt Kasim like that. It was as if I had been torn in half telling of my love for Krell and half telling of the outrageous things Krell had done. I thought I was crazy to be so torn. A sound suddenly interrupted my thoughts. Pitter-patter, the sounds became more concentrated. It was raining. I subconsciously looked out of the tent. Krell still hadn't left. Almost without thinking, I quickly unzipped the tent. The next second, I was pounced on by Krell. The rain dampened the ends of his hair, making the smell of male hormones on him even stronger. Mia, Krell called to me, picking up a strand of my hair with his hand. Are you really in love with Kasim? At this moment, Krell was very aggressive. He was like a beast whose territory had been snatched away. You can go back when the rain stops. I didn't want to answer his question. Answer me, Krell shouted. pressing my hand to the top of my head, and I had to arch my back, which brought my body close to his. Actually, I also did not know. Mia, tell me. Carell lowered his head even lower, and the tip of my nose touched his. I suddenly felt something different under me. I felt like something was pressing against my lower abdomen, hideous and seductive. Creel, calm down, please. I felt that we were in such a terrible position that just the slightest spark could send us into the fire together. How do you think I can calm down? Kasim has only been by your side for a short while, and all you can see is him. The situation seemed to have gotten even worse. That part of Krell became even more erect, and one could even see the protruding outline through his suit pants. You really don't like me anymore. Krell bit my earlobe. He didn't control his strength and even bit it with his canine teeth. I felt a sting in my earlobe. Krell, you're not being honest with me. Why won't you tell me what you're really up to? I hated to nag at the same question, but I really wanted to know the answer. I can't tell you, Krell said, and I'm sure Kasim approached you for the same purpose. Really, I was still that lowly omega. I didn't deserve love, and I didn't deserve to be treated sincerely. So Kasim isn't a good person either. Stay away from him. Kyle continued. Oh, is that so? But at least he will respect me. I twisted my hands, trying to break free from Krell's restraint. Are you not fond of me anymore? Carol asked me with a raised eyebrow. Exactly. I replied loudly. Then who do you like? Kasim. Krell's voice was low. He was suppressing his anger. Yes, I like him. He's so considerate, I admitted. Have you slept with him? Krell suddenly asked me. I froze. How could Krell be so dirty? He actually said such a thing. Yes, we're very compatible. I didn't deny it. He was so despicable, and I didn't want to answer seriously. Oh, really? Then which one of us is better? Who do you enjoy more? Krell asked. His eyes turned blue, which was a sign of his anger. I didn't answer. You're not gonna tell me then. I'll let you know who's better. Krell said as he reached into my shirt. Chapter 35, all tied up. Book. Just correct. We got along really well just 2 days ago. How did this happen? Did Mia really do it with Casa? Damn it. That's really outrageous. Mia was mine. No one could take her from me. I wanted to take Mia back. She was so beautiful. Her figure was so perfect. And she had a heart of gold. My hand went to Mia's waist. Her skin was smooth and delicate, like a piece of flawless jade. But I was still upset. I couldn't stand the fact that Kasim had also touched Mia like this. No, I'm gonna conquer Mia. I'm gonna make her scream and go crazy under me, just like she did that night in the cave. I took off Mia's top. She was not wearing a bra. Her soft breasts were presented in front of my eyes. They swayed up and down with Mia's breathing, which was slow and seductive. I lowered my head and sucked in Mia's nipple. I heard her moan. An honest response, I liked it very much. I couldn't help but bite the nipple gently with my teeth. It was simply wonderful. There was a sweet fragrance on it. Oh, Krell, I don't want to do it. Mia was rejecting me. Why would she reject me? Hasn't she accepted me already? Is it still because of Kasim? I thought. It drove me crazy. My head was no longer clear. I just wanted to take Mia completely and make her my woman only. My hand touched the waistband of Mia's pants with a gentle pull. Mia's beautiful lower body was right in front of me. Karel, you pervert. Let go of me. Mia resisted even more violently. I knew she didn't want me, but I really couldn't take it anymore. I wouldn't let her go just like that. I clenched my fists and activated my mate's suppression skill. Mia quickly went limp in my arms. Her body was really soft, like a pool of spring water. I unzipped my pants with one push-up. I could enter Maya. Her eyes would blur for me. Her body would go crazy for me. Mia, are you okay? Kasim's voice came from outside the tent. I immediately came back to my senses. Damn, if I did that to Maya, she would definitely never forgive me. I zipped my pants and stepped out, bumping Kasim's shoulder in the process. Mia is fine. Why don't you go back? I didn't want this guy to see Mia's body. Kasim left and returned to his tent. The rain was heavier than it had been earlier, washing over every tent. There were warm lights in Mia's tent. Mia was completely naked. Her beautiful outline was especially alluring under the warm light. I saw her curled up into a small ball. Her body was twitching. Is she crying? I felt hurt. I was such a bastard. I shouldn't have done that to her. I strongly condemned myself. I felt my heart bleed. The raindrops hit my body, but I didn't want to dodge them. I let the rain pelt my body. It ran down my hair and fell on the grass. I looked down. It was a dusky green, as depressing as my mood. Wait, what was that? I saw a wisp of grayish-brown fur. What a familiar color. It is the fur of the wild wolves who kidnapped Mia that day. No one else had been here but me and Kasim. Kasim, but he didn't show up in our lives until the day Mia was kidnapped. Could it be that he has been trying to save the damsel in distress since then? But I have messed up his plan. I turned back to Mia's tent. Mia, can you listen to me for a moment? I asked her carefully, afraid that she would get angry and cry. What is it? Her voice was hoarse. She must have been crying hard. About you being kidnapped by the wild wolves. What are you trying to say? Mia suddenly became agitated. Are you trying to bring up the day when you saved me so that I would be grateful to you and have sex with you? Mia took a deep breath. Her voice was much calmer. I really feel disgusted by what you did to me. Disgusting, is it true? Does Mia really not like me at all? Didn't you have a good time that day? I was puzzled. She clearly liked it that day. I didn't, Maya shouted. I knew that we could not continue this topic. Business was more important. Now, as long as Mia knew about this, Kasim would never have the chance to persuade Mia again. Mia, I'm not trying to say this. I'm trying to say that the one that kidnapped you, you still haven't given up. Kasim appeared behind me again. No wonder my sister doesn't like you when you harass her like this, Kasim continued. He acted as if you were her guardian, while I was some hooligan. Did he realize that his belongings were missing? No, I can't tell Mia about this. Kasim must have thought of how to explain it to Mia. He would definitely convince Mia again. I have to think of another way. Books Tisminada. The afterglow of the setting sun dyed the clouds in the sky red and covered half the sky. The sun had completely set, but I couldn't see them. None of them came back. Why does it take them so long to find the way? I wandered around the camp alone from sunset to late night. I really couldn't wait any longer. Could they have encountered some danger? I walked alone toward the mountain road, in the direction they had just left. The sound of insects flooded my ears. It was chaotic and noisy, making me feel even more irritated. The moon was already high up in the sky. I instinctively quickened my pace. Where the hell have they gone? I looked forward to meeting them, but they didn't return after a long time. I was even a little flustered as I started running down the mountain road. Suddenly, a bright spot of light caught my eye. I saw a flash of red. As I approached the light, I realized it was a brooch, a ruby, studded brooch. I couldn't be more familiar with this brooch because it belonged to Kasim. Could this be the mark they left for me? Could they be in danger? As I pondered, the brooch began to flicker. It gradually left my palm and flew in a certain direction. I followed the brooch on the mountain path, but it kept changing directions. Is this really their path? The route became more and more unusual. It even led me to a rugged ravine. In fact, we'd never choose such a route in order to save energy. I began to wonder if the brooch was a trap set by someone else. Despite my doubts, I had no choice. All I could do was follow its lead. The wind rustled as I finally crossed the uneven mountain path and came to an empty space. It was huge in the middle, was high ground. It was impossible to see what was going on above, but it looked like a platform built on purpose. The platform was round, and I could not help but think of the platforms used for execution. I looked around to make sure Krell wasn't there and started climbing toward the round platform. The round platform stood very high. It was difficult for me to get there. When I reached the top, my nails were already embedded in the soil, and blood was even seeping out. I was at last able to see the whole of it, but what I saw astonished me. A brown wolf was tied to the cross. His fur was shiny, swaying in the wind like waves of wheat in a rice field. Who is he, and who has him tied up here? I walked toward him. His mouth was sealed with duct tape, and he couldn't speak. But he looked at me with such affectionate eyes as if they could speak. He blinked, innocent and pitiful. Was it Kasim? I was shocked. Who has tied him up here? I rushed over and tore the tape off his mouth. Mia, he called me. He looked wretched. I didn't know who was so evil to do this. What happened to you? I asked him. I remember that I went to scout with Krillil and the others. Then I was suddenly knocked unconscious from behind. When I woke up, I was here, Kasim replied. Then, where are they? I asked myself. Chapter 36. More and more deception. What's going on? I exclaimed. I couldn't believe my eyes. I rushed forward to Kasim and tried to untie him, but the rope around him was so tight that I couldn't untie it at all. A thought flashed through my mind. Could Kasim be tied up here by them? No, that couldn't be. How could they be so cruel to a teenager? They must have just discovered Kasim trapped here and planned to save him too. I said to myself. At this moment, Kasim, who seemed to have fainted, suddenly opened his eyes. His weak appearance really broke my heart. Kasim, are you okay? I gently touched his injured cheek and turned to the men. Hurry up and untie him. No, they won't untie me, I heard Kasim's weak voice. What I heard him clearly, but I couldn't believe it. I'm just a kid who's scarcely 20 years old. I won't be a threat to them. I don't know why they treated me like this. Perhaps they'll only be happy if I die. Kasim's long hair was loose on his exquisite face, but his eyes were filled with fear and vulnerability. It made me feel extremely sorry for him. Don't say that, Kasim. I won't let you die. I will protect you. I was furious. I turned around and looked at these people accusingly. Why would you do this to him? He's just a kid. He's only years old, although his father is an alpha. He has long been separated from his pack. He is all by himself now. It's fine if you don't help him. But how could you set him up over and over again? I ran my eyes over the men's faces. They had all saved and helped me before. They had been very important people in my life. I thought they were reliable, decent, and righteous. But it didn't occur to me that they would do such an outrageous thing to a young man, which was disappointing. Because I heard Krell say coldly after a moment, because I'm going to kill him. I was shocked because I saw strong killing intent in Krell's eyes. Book Krell hunted. I never expected that another person would appear after the tremendous change in my relationship with Mia, when the pleasure of that night was still constantly replaying in my mind. This person looked young, but his cunning gaze proved that he was definitely not a good person. He must have chosen to come because of Mia's identity. Before he appeared, Mia would throw tantrums at us sometimes. Sometimes we would argue, however, she had never stood up against others for one person. Kasim looked weak, helpless, and kind in front of Mia. When Mia was not around, he was extremely vicious and cruel. I saw that when Mia shouted angrily at us, Kasim, who had his back facing Mia, revealed a smug and fierce expression. The moment his eyes met mine, he silently cursed, moving his lips without making a sound. I couldn't take it anymore. I took out a gun from behind my waist and shot at Kasim. Unexpectedly, Kasim tilted his head and the bullet flew past his cheek. Mia was stunned. Then she rushed forward and snatched my gun. She was so frightened that her face turned pale. She pushed me hard. "You're crazy. You're gonna kill him. You're gonna kill Kasim." I looked at Mia, who was trembling with anger, and took a deep breath to temporarily ignore Kasim's demonic and provocative gaze. I saw with my own eyes that he instantly stopped provoking me and put on a terrified expression. "Mia, he really wanted to kill me. Mia, save me. I don't want to die. No, he'll only give us trouble. No one knows what will happen if we keep him around, even if Mia blames me. I will get rid of Kasim," I thought. With this in mind, I pushed Mia aside and took a few more steps toward Kashum, holding my gun. Mia caught up and stood in front of Kasim. She looked up at me with an expression that was almost determined. I felt a wave of panic being stared at by her like this. "Kel, if you want to kill him, kill me." First, my heart instantly sank. We had known each other for so long. We had tested each other, confessed to each other, and even went through life and death together. She was my destined mate, the closest and most important person in my life. I suddenly felt very powerless. I lowered the gun and looked into Maya's eyes. Her eyes were bright and innocent, like two sparkling gems. This used to be what attracted me the most. I still remember that night. Her eyes were cory yet passionate. She was looking at me with vigilance as if I was a stranger to her. When I looked into her eyes, I felt so heartbroken that I couldn't control myself. I asked slowly, "Mia, tell me the truth. Do you like Kasim? Now, can you turn your back on me for him? Perhaps I'm not important to you. Does that mean that no one else is important?" I suddenly turned around and looked at the three men standing at the back who were silent. I pointed at them and asked Mia loudly for Kasim. "You don't care about Locus, Simon, or Willard, right?" "That's not true. Don't put words in my mouth." Locus, who had been silent all this while, spoke up. He said, "Mia, you know how we feel about you. Carell is an alpha, and Simon is the alpha's successor. Not only do they have to manage the pack, but they also have the family business. Although I'm not an alpha, my nephew is still young. I'm basically the one handling the pack's matter." He was no longer his usual cynical self. "Also, Willard is famous in the medical world," he continued. "His combat skills are also well known. Everyone's attention is on you, but you insist on coming for a scavenger hunt. We dropped everything and followed you." You understand our feelings." Lucas's words were exactly what I was thinking. All of us treated Mia as a treasure. Although we first got close to her because of her identity as the reincarnation of the moon goddess, we did everything for her these days because we truly loved her. Mia was crying. I resisted the urge to wipe her tears away and clenched my fists by my side. Mia cried, "I know you've done a lot for me. There's nothing I can do to repay you. But why must you kill Kasim? Why can't you just spare him?" Without saying a word, I took a few steps forward and approached Kasim. Mia jumped, thinking I was going to hurt Kasim, and hurried after me. I took a necklace from Kasim's pocket and said to Mia, "Have you seen this?" Mia was stunned. "I think I've seen it before." Willard also took out a necklace from his pocket. To my surprise, the two necklaces looked exactly the same. Mia asked curiously, "Willard, why do you also have this?" Willard said, "It's not mine. I found it from where you were held hostage. It belongs to that wild wolf." Simon also added, "So why would Kasim have the same necklace as the wild wolves who kidnapped you if he's not guilty?" there's only one possibility. Mia's expression changed drastically, and she took a few steps back. No, that's impossible. I knew that Mia knew what we were trying to say, so I added, Kasim and those wolves belong to one pack. He approached you for a purpose. If I hadn't found you that day, then Kasim would have pretended to break in unintentionally and save you, to be your savior. Simon added, when people fell asleep at night, I saw him leave quietly. I followed him. He was talking to a member of the wild wolf. Mia shuddered and looked at Kasim. Impossible, she murmured. Impossible. Kasim's faint voice suddenly sounded, you set me up. You put this necklace in my pocket. I've never seen this necklace before. In order to set me up, you accused me of being a member of the wild wolves. How can you make up such a ridiculous story? Mia, help me, please. I really wanted to kill this sinister and cunning guy, but I couldn't yet. Mia was now brainwashed by Kasim and completely believed that we had set him up. Listening to Kasim's pitiful cries, Mia turned around and hugged him. I will definitely save you. Mia made up her mind and looked at us with a firm look. I promise you that I'll let him leave when he's recovered, I assured her. Chapter 37, The Competition Book, Tasminar. I looked at Karel and the others in disbelief. They actually wanted to kill Kasimin. What is the difference between them and savages? I couldn't help but feel angry. I hugged Kasa. I stood in front of Kasim and tried to protect him. I looked at the 4 people in front of me in disappointment and pain. If you want to kill Kasim, please kill me too. Mia, do you know what you're talking about? Karel's eyes widened. His face was full of anger at my disobedience. Mia, Kasim is not as innocent as you think. Don't be fooled by him. Simon looked at me disapprovingly, as if he was scolding a rebellious child. He's just a treacherous person who pretends to be vulnerable in front of you. I can act like that if you want. Locus's face was filled with disdain. I shifted my gaze to Willard. His eyes flickered. Then he silently looked away. At this moment, I found it extremely funny. Previously, Kasim had said that they were only good to me because of my look. In fact, they didn't have much respect for me, nor did they really admire me. I had always been suspicious. Up until now, I had seen their various reactions. They could even plunder other people's lives at will and didn't listen to me at all. How much respect could they have for me? The corners of my mouth twitched. I didn't want to look at their faces anymore. I turned around and held Kasim in my arms like a treasure. In a firm tone, I said, I know what I'm doing. If you want to kill him, kill me first. Good, Mia, that's perfect, Willard. Let him go. Krael said through gritted teeth. He seemed to have been angered after saying that. He left. Mia, we're doing this for your own good. Do you think we'll hurt you? Simon sighed. After a while, he realized that I didn't have a reaction, so he didn't stay any longer and left. Locus left very quickly, but before he left, he did not forget to mock Kasim. You have amazing acting skill. You know what? You won. We're indeed much less capable of putting on a show like that. The series of footsteps behind me disappeared one by one. I let go of Kasim and Willard came up silently to help me help Sima. Thank you. Although I was angry, I knew that Willard had always been a withdrawn character. Most of the time, he would follow his brother's orders first. I was just a little uncomfortable and didn't want to vent my anger on him, so I forced a smile and thanked him. Willard helped me help Kasim back to camp. I asked him to take Kasim directly to my tent. Kasim's injuries needed to be treated first. Willard was a little disapproving. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but I raised my hand to interrupt him and said, I know you can also treat him, but Willard, I can't trust him with someone who tried to kill him before. Mia, I'm fine. If you're tired, you don't have to treat me. I'm fine. Kasim tugged at the corner of my shirt. He tried his best to smile at me, but he was grimacing in pain. I lowered my eyes and saw that there were bruises on his exposed arm. His forced smile broke my heart. What he said also made me feel warm and loved. "I'm not tired. I can treat you right away. Willard, you can leave first. I can take it from here," I told Willard. "Call me if you need anything," Willard said in the end, before he left. He seemed to glance at Kasim one last time. Before I could figure out his meaning, he had already retracted his gaze and walked out. "Mia, thank you for saving me. If you hadn't appeared in time, I would have died by now. They are really too violent. I've never seen an alpha who shows no respect for life." Kasim lowered his eyes. The expression on his face was puzzled, sad, and a little scared. It's fine now." Seeing his miserable look, I felt more pity for him in my heart. I reached out to touch his head and comforted him. "Let me take a look at your wound now. It won't hurt anymore after it's healed." Yes, he looked up at me with a coy smile, then took off his shirt with his back to me. "It might not look pretty. They were hitting me hard. I can't dodge them being tied up. There might be a lot of bruises on my back. Mia, don't be scared," Kasim said carefully. Isn't he sweet? He's still worried about me when he is so badly hurt. How could they bear to hurt such a kind person? I looked at the bruises on Kasim's back and felt my heart ache. I placed my fingers on them and thought about his warm words. I couldn't help but lower my head and kiss the bruises on his back. I felt his body suddenly stiffen, and I quickly reacted. I was annoyed with myself for being reckless, and my face burned. Without thinking, I knew that my face must be beetroot red. "Mia, it hurts," just as I was at a loss. Kasim's slightly coquettish voice sounded. I looked up and met his eyes. He had turned around at some point and was looking at me with clear and deep eyes. The heat on my face had just subsided a little. When he looked at me, it increased again. I coughed lightly. "Well, turn around. I'll treat you immediately. It won't hurt anymore after you're cured." "No," Kasim pouted like a child. He pulled the corner of my shirt and shook it gently. "Mia, just kiss me like you did just now. It won't hurt after the kiss." My face felt like it was about to be burnt. I opened my mouth and instinctively wanted to refuse, but Kasim's expectant and aggrieved gaze instantly made me unable to speak. Although he was an alpha who was about my age, this childish side of him really made him look adorable. My heart was pounding, and I acquiesced to his actions when he tentatively leaned over. At this moment, he smiled like a child who had received candy, put one arm around my waist, and pressed the other hand behind my head and kissed me on the lip. I didn't expect him to kiss me. I was stunned for a moment, but soon I was aroused by his superb kissing technique and took the initiative to respond. When I came back to my senses, I was already feeling hot under him. I felt the heat of his crotch pressing against my lower abdomen. I couldn't help but flinch, unable to understand how things had gone this far. "Mia, can I?" Kasim looked at me in a gentle and affectionate manner. His eyes were filled with uncontrollable desire, and his forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat. But he didn't continue immediately. He was waiting for my signal. A feeling of being respected and cherished arose spontaneously. I couldn't help but feel touched by his action. Whether it was Corell Locus or even Simon, they were all trying to force me to compromise. Only Katsian would patiently and forbearingly ask for my permission. I smiled at him and wrapped my arms around his neck, leaning forward to kiss his lip. Why not? I thought. My clothes were stripped off by him one by one. He was clearly having a hard time suppressing his passion, but he still patiently stimulated the sensitive spots on my body. His hands seemed to be on fire, lighting up strings of flames on my body. He gently kneaded my breasts with one hand and caressed my inner thigh with the other. I subconsciously bent my legs and opened them obediently. His fingers gently inserted and moved slowly. I looked at his eyes that were red with lust and kissed the corner of his eyes pityingly. I whispered, "It's enough. You can come in now." "Mia, Mia," he called out, his movements gentle and restrained. His soothing, gentle strokes as he claimed me made me feel like I was truly cherished by him. After we were both satisfied, we exchanged a kiss, and finally we turned into wolves and lay down. I was woken up by Krell's angry roar. "Kasim, I'll kill you." Chapter 38, Anger of Betrayal. Book, Gerskaro Hunted. Because of Kasim, we had a bad time with Mia. I returned to my tent angrily and felt that the woman was really stupid. She couldn't even tell that he was trying to make us turn our backs on each other. She had been so protective of him. I really wanted to open her brain to see what it was made of. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I clenched my fist and slammed it on the bedding. Willard came in and said that Kasim was resting in Mia's tent. I sneered and said, "He's so nosy. He's a man, but he's more of a woman." Mia just had to fall for his tricks. That was just unacceptable. Willard was silent for a moment. Then he said hesitantly, "Mia is a very kind person. What we did was indeed a little too much." I narrowed my eyes. I didn't expect my brother, who had always been silent, to say such things. What he said might make sense, but I had been used to being in charge for a long time. In addition, I was angry now. I snorted, "You think that's too much? You think I am wrong." Humph. His goal was very clear from the beginning. "Let's see if we don't chase him away from Mia sooner or later. All of us will bear the consequences." Willard pursed his lips and bowed silently before taking his leave. Although I refuted him, I carefully thought about what he said. From what I knew about Mia, she really couldn't accept killing Kasim directly in her opinion. He was just a kid who tended to argue with me. She didn't know how important her identity was to all of the various packs. Right now, there were already quite a few people gathered around her. The appearance of Lucas and Simon was already enough to make me feel nervous. Now that Kasim was here too, I was indeed a little impatient regarding this matter. Forget it. I'll talk to Mia tomorrow. I rubbed my temples and thought to myself. The next morning, I got up early to talk to Mia. As soon as I arrived near her tent, I smelled Kasim. My face instantly darkened. What is this sneaky brat doing here in Mia's tent in the morning? I pulled open the tent with a dark expression. Unexpectedly, I saw two huge wolves, one brown and one white, lying with their necks crossed. The tent was filled with the smell of lust. I felt dizzy, and the anger of betrayal engulfed my sanity. I roared in disbelief. "What did you do last night?" My voice woke up the two of them. A trace of panic flashed across Mia's eyes before she quickly calmed down. Meanwhile, Kasim looked at me with a provocative gaze and said, hypocritically, "Don't blame Mia. I couldn't help it. I think it's all part of your evil plans." Kasim, there's no need to explain to him. Mia seemed a little angry. She looked at me and said in a low voice, "Karel, go out first. It's really rude of you to barge in like that." I laughed in anger at her words. I didn't know what she meant by saying there was no need for an explanation and that I was rude. Is it because I have been too kind so that now they think I am a pushover? I flew into a rage and used my powerful alpha power to suppress them, preventing them from turning back into human form. I smiled sinisterly and looked at Kasim as if he was dead. "Do you know what happens to traitors in the Arindal pack?" Then I dragged them out of the tent without waiting for their reaction. I locked them in cages, respectively, ignoring Mia's roar. This was quite a commotion, so it naturally alarmed the others. I watched coldly as she asked them for help. I smiled mockingly. Simon and Lucas were probably very happy to see this happen. As for my brother, he could not do anything to disobey me. The ending was as I had guessed. No one helped her. I turned around coldly and returned to my tent. Book, does my... Carol looked at me as if he had been betrayed. I felt guilty and panicked for a moment. Yesterday, I was indeed indulging in Kasim's gentleness and was a little impulsive. However, when I heard Kasim defending me, my heart softened. Krella might have feelings for me, but it was more control and possessiveness. If I had to choose between Krell and Kasim, I would rather be with Kasim. Besides, Karel's motives for approaching me might not have been simple from the very beginning. With this in mind, I calmed down. Kasim, there's no need to explain to him. Krell, go out first. It's rude of you to barge in like this. I wanted Krell to go out first. We could talk about this after he calmed down and we got ourselves together. I believed I already had someone in mind who I could spend the rest of my life with. So I could take this opportunity to make it public. If they had other motives, I thought they would be honest about it. I wouldn't turn them down if there was something I could do to help. Yeah. After all, they really helped me a lot. That was the truth. But I never expected Krell to lock me up. After I was suppressed and couldn't return to my human form, he dragged me into a cage. I roared in disbelief. Krell, you can't do this to me. Let go of me. Krell turned a deaf ear to my roar. I watched as he locked the cage door. I slapped the cage with my claws almost irritably. Krell, I do not belong to your pack. You have no right to treat me like this. What do you take me for? I felt like I was being caged like an animal. The strong sense of humiliation made me feel very desperate and irritable. I originally thought that even if they had approached me on purpose, Krell would at least show me some respect after all this time. However, that was far from how things really were. He had never respected me, nor did he treat me as a complete and independent person. The huge commotion alarmed the others. They gathered around. I waited for them to help me. However, none of them came to my rescue. I looked at Lucas and Simon's cold eyes and felt as if my entire body was covered in ice. I remembered what Kasim had said and understood. That's right, they all have a purpose. As long as I didn't cooperate, they could force me to cooperate. I shifted my gaze to Willard. How about this reserved man with low self-esteem? What about him? Did he have the same purpose? I suppose so. I thought almost desperately, and then I saw that he was still silent as he turned and went back to the tent like the others. Why are you doing this to me just because of my face? I almost broke down as I thought. I curled myself into a ball. Oh, moon goddess, please tell me, why did you put me through this? All I want is to become a healer and live a stable life. Why can't you grant the smallest wish of mine? Time passed slowly. My heart was soaked in despair. I felt like I was wandering on the edge of madness. I was extremely close to going crazy. The sky turned dark and the camp fell into silence. Krell and the others were asleep. I'd been hungry all day and my stomach throbbed. I lay on the ground and my last dignity made me refuse to eat the food placed in the corner of the cage. Suddenly, I saw Willard quietly approaching in the darkness. He stopped in front of the cage. I originally wanted to ignore him, but when I thought of the time I spent with him in the clinic, I said, with the last bit of hope, Willard, please let me go. Okay. Before he could answer, I continued, I don't want to stay in a cage. I feel disrespected, like an animal in a pen, but I'm a lichen. Why do I have to suffer like this? Ever since I was young, there were always disgusting people and things around me. No matter where I went, bad luck would always accompany me. When you guys came along, I thought I was finally lucky. I thought I could finally live the peaceful life I wanted. But why? Why did it become like this? Is it because of this face? Yes, it must be. Then I'll destroy it, okay? Will everything be okay if I destroy it? I muttered to myself like a maniac. The more I thought about it, the more I felt that it was feasible. In a daze, I seemed to raise my claws and slowly approach my face. "Mia, stop it," I heard Willard's anxious growl. I stopped what I was doing and looked at him blankly. Chapter 39. It was me. Book, 'tis Willard. In the morning, I was woken up by the roar of Mia in the camp. I ran out of the tent anxiously and saw my brother dragging Mia and Kakosim into cages and locking them up. My brother was looking at Mia like she was a traitor. I guessed that something might have happened between Mia and Kasim at this moment. I felt a trace of joy. I lowered my head in a panic, unable to believe that I had such thought. Soon, the others also came out. I heard Mia begging us to let her out. I looked up and saw the cold eyes of Locus and Simon. They must have guessed what happened and didn't make a move to help her. I turned my gaze to Mia again. She was also looking at me expectantly. I wanted to persuade my brother to let her go, but I knew that he wouldn't listen to me. He might even be angrier because of my advice. Just wait until he calms down in the end. I did nothing and turned back to the tent. Moreover, Mia had indeed betrayed my brother. Traitors in the Arendo pack had to be punished on this point. I did not have the right to question my brother's decision. With that thought in mind, I didn't notice my jealousy of my brother. Night came quickly, worried for her. I went to see her while everyone else was asleep. She was in a bad mood, and her eyes were bloodshot. My heart ached when I looked at her weak and lean appearance. I listened to her muttering and panicked for no reason. My intuition told me that something was wrong. Then I saw her raise her claws to scratch her face. I was shocked and spoke quietly. "Mia, stop." My voice stopped her. I looked at her confused gaze and felt like a hole had been torn in my heart. I almost couldn't breathe. I didn't expect my brother's actions to hurt her so much. I couldn't imagine what would have happened if I hadn't come to see her tonight. For the first time, I resented my brother's decision and intended to defy him. Looking at the dazed Mia in front of me, I recalled the scene in the cave that day. I couldn't help but feel jealous. If my brother couldn't give her happiness, why should I abide by etiquette and not interrupt them? The thought flashed through my mind. "Mia, calm down. I'll let you out." Seeing her perk up after hearing my words, I was even more determined. I smiled at her and broke the cage lock before helping her out. "Willard, can you release Kasim too?" Mia turned back into her human form and tugged at the corner of my shirt as she looked at me expectantly. Actually, I wasn't too willing. Kasim's methods made me feel ashamed. Moreover, he was also my love rival, and he had even caught up to me. However, I could not go with Mia. I had to explain to my brother and find the divine artifact with him. Mia's identity was too important. If I left her alone, I would not be at ease. In the end, I released Kasim as well. I sent them out of the camp and instructed Mia to be careful. Kasim stopped me and handed me a brooch, saying that I could find them through the brooch sensing as a thank you gift for letting him go. I wasn't going to take it initially, but I changed my mind and accepted it after hearing that I could find them through this. Then I watched them leave. Book, 'tis me out of. Kasim and I left overnight. Our stamina didn't last us too far. Kasim chose a relatively safe place to set up camp, and we took the time to rest. The following day, I was woken up by Kasim. He needed to search the vicinity for food and water. Then we were ready to continue on our way. I nodded and got up to start a fire nearby. As I started the fire, I saw Willard walking over from afar. He seemed to be happy to see me and quickened his pace. "Willard, why are you here?" I was a little surprised then. I realized, is it because you let us go? I looked at him worriedly. After scanning his body and finding no apparent injuries, I heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that he hadn't fought with the others. Yes, after sending you guys away, I returned to the camp and bumped into my brother. He was outraged and thought that I had betrayed him too. I quarreled with him, although I disobeyed his orders. He was indeed the one who went overboard this time. Willard lowered his eyes. He looked very disappointed, and his tone showed a trace of stubbornness. For a moment, I didn't know what to say because I was the cause of the matter. I was in no position to comfort him. It didn't seem right to say anything at this time. Willard didn't seem to need my comfort. He suddenly couldn't take it anymore and continued to talk about his feelings. I've never hated him so much. I think I'm jealous of him. He can do everything better than me. He can get anything effortlessly. The people in the clan praised him as the most powerful alpha. They praised him for being young, capable, and powerful. No one can see my effort. Mia, do you know, I'm like his shadow living under his light forever. I tried so hard to catch up to him, but no matter what I did, my people would say, 'cause not bad, but your brother was a little stronger than you back then. You have to work harder. Willard smiled bitterly. I could feel his helplessness. I might not be able to personally experience the harm that the disregard of his clan members had caused him, but I could imagine how torturous that hopeless pursuit was. I couldn't remain indifferent, so I reached out and hugged him. I stroked his head, hoping to make him feel better this way. Willard also reached out to hug me back and then said something that shocked me. Mia, you probably don't remember. I was the man who saved you in the hotel at that time. I was thinking, how could such a beautiful girl encounter such a thing? But I could only hand you over to my brother because of his orders. Later on, my brother asked me to teach you healing skills. That period in the clinic was the most relaxed and happy time of my life. I gradually became attracted to you. I was surprised you could still maintain a pure and kind heart after suffering so much. I was amazed by your unique talent for healing skills. I gradually became attracted to you uncontrollably, and my gazes landed on you more and more. I listened to his words and felt a little flustered. I felt things were gradually moving in a direction I could not control. I retracted my hand and wanted to push him away. Willard, you haven't eaten, right? You just ran out of the camp? Kasim went to look for food. Sit down and rest for a while. You'll have breakfast with us later. I tried to change the topic, but he became tough for once. He held my waist tightly. Mia, listen to me. I didn't want to get between you and my brother. I thought my brother could give you happiness. Until yesterday, in that case, why can't I pursue you? Mia, I like you. Can you be with me? I will do my best to treat you well and give you everything you want. Chapter 40, I can save him. Sighing in my mind, I pushed him away. I heard him gently but definitely ask me why. Willard, I thought we were just friends. Besides, I have someone I want to spend the rest of my life with now. I didn't want to leave Willard hanging. He was great. But I never thought I'd have a family with him. Although I was shocked that he was the one who saved me back then, I also clearly knew that the gratitude I felt back then was far different from the feelings I felt with Krell. Only then did I realize that my feelings for Krell might have unknowingly become deeper than I had imagined. Unfortunately, Willard's words indirectly confirmed Kasim's words. Karel indeed had some purpose in getting close to me in the beginning. I couldn't help but sigh. Who is it, my brother? He treated you like that. He was so arbitrary and oppressive. Why did you still choose him? Willard looked at me in disbelief. I frowned slightly at his words. Although what Karel had done yesterday made me angry, I could understand him when I calmed down now. He was the pride of the Arendelle pack, and I had indeed slept with him before. I had even thought of being with him for the rest of my life, but I couldn't accept that he wanted to keep me at home like a pet. Therefore, it was understandable for him to think that I had betrayed him. As for being arbitrary and oppressive, a complicated emotion rose in my heart when I recalled everything I had experienced since I met him. There was joy, sorrow, and bitterness. I smiled. Your brother is a little overbearing, but he's not arbitrary. He's just stubborn and won't admit that others are right. He wants to keep his pride, but he'll listen to others later. Moreover, as an elder brother, he has always been very good to you, right? He has also set a good example for you. Previously, when you locked yourself in your room, he was very anxious to know what happened to you. I didn't realize that I was no longer angry with Krill. I even spoke up for him when I heard Willard say that he wasn't good and refuted Willard's definition of him. It's common for blood brothers to quarrel, but they're all related by blood. It's normal for conflicts to arise when they have different opinions. This small conflict will be over soon. Willard didn't expect me to say this. He was staring at me in a daze, his eyes flickering with an inexplicable meaning. When he met my puzzled gaze, he shook his head and said firmly, "It's not a small conflict. I can't accept his recent actions this time. I definitely won't forgive him." I didn't expect him to be so determined when he opened his mouth and wanted to persuade me again. I didn't like the two brothers to have animosity because of me. Moreover, Carell would be very sad if he had broken off relations with his younger brother like this. I didn't want to see that situation. However, things did not always go as one wished. I heard a beast roar behind me. Then Willard transformed into a giant wolf and blocked me behind him. I turned around to look. A large group of ferocious beasts had appeared out of nowhere and were eyeing us covetously. My heart was pounding, and I couldn't help but feel nervous. I didn't know when Kasim would return. There was only Willard now, but there were too many beasts. Would Willard be enough? I didn't. Just as I was letting my imagination run wild, Willard had already pounced on the beasts. I watched as he nimbly fought among the beasts. Not long after, he defeated several beasts. I heaved a sigh of relief in order not to cause him unnecessary trouble. I found a hidden spot and hid. Then I kept an eye on the battle. At this moment, I was a little annoyed at how weak I was. Healing skills couldn't help much at this time. Other than healing skills, I didn't have any different abilities. Only when I encountered such a situation did I realize how powerless I was. The beasts seemed to be appearing endlessly. Willard had already defeated a large number of them. The ground was filled with corpses, but more beasts appeared to join the battle. I watched worriedly, praying that Kasim would return soon. Willard's stamina probably wouldn't last long. As I was feeling anxious, I saw that Willard couldn't dodge in time and was scratched on the back by a huge beast's sharp claws. I couldn't help but exclaim softly. The black purple blood flowing out of the wound made my heart sink to the bottom. That beast's claws were poisonous. Willard seemed to have been triggered by this. He began to attack without caring about anything else. The beasts were forced back by his reckless fighting style. They roared and slowly retreated. After confirming that the beasts had left, Willard collapsed to the ground. I ran toward him in panic. When I was nearby, I tripped over a corpse and fell beside him. Worried, he tried to help me up, but he only managed to prop up half of his body before falling back down. I held back my tears and got up. "Don't move, Willard. I'll treat you immediately." I circulated my power and suspended my hands above his wound. However, my usual invincible healing skills had little effect this time. I looked at the wound that couldn't heal because of the poison and was about to cry. Willard seemed to sense something and licked my cheek. "It's fine. Mia, there's no hurry. There will be a way. I can hold on for a long time." I knew that he was trying to comfort me. I had no time to think of a way to detox. In the end, I realized in despair that this poison could only be cured through a special treasure. I didn't have such a treasure. I instantly fell into despair and tears fell. I still didn't give up and cast a healing spell on the wound. No, Willard will be fine. Even without that thing, you will be fine. If I keep using healing skill. Willard seemed to have noticed something. He also knew about healing. He only needed to feel it a little to understand his wound. In comparison, he was much calmer and more at ease. He raised his claws to stop my current action. I heard him say to me in a gentle voice, "Mia, it's very dangerous for you to do this. If you overuse the healing skill, you will overdraft your strength stop, since the healing skill is useless. Let's quickly think of another way." I knew he was comforting me, so I didn't dare to stop, even though it wasn't very effective. I knew how rare that special treasure was, and it was almost impossible to find it in this remote place. At this moment, I regretted bringing them to such a remote place because of a dream. After searching for so long, I did not see the so-called treasure and encountered danger along the way. Now Willard's life was in danger. Moon Goddess, please don't take his life. There must be a way to save him. Time slowly passed. Due to continuous blood loss, Willard didn't have much energy left to dissuade me. I also realized in despair that my strength was almost exhausted. Just as I was feeling sad and helpless, Kasim returned. He looked at the mess in shock before quickly coming to Willard and me. Kasim saved Willard. I looked at Kasim as if I had found my savior. I begged him with thin expectations, hoping that a miracle would happen and he could save Willard. Willard did not think so. Instead, he seemed to reject Kasim when he saw Kasim. His relaxed body suddenly tensed up again, as if he was ready to attack at any time. "I can heal him." I couldn't describe how I felt when I heard Kasim say that. It wasn't just a simple surprise anymore. If it weren't for the tight time, I felt like picking him up and spinning him around. This part has ended. Thank you for listening. If you would like to continue listening to the next part, please let me know by leaving a comment.